That photo is the last thing that anybody will see of her alive. I started getting these texts. Have you seen this?
A police scanner had lit up.
They were talking about a girl who was found on Valley Road.
The marks on the throat, the bruising, they were consistent with homicide.
Without a confession, the investigation could go on for months, even years.
When the case broke, it broke big and fast.
When the story starts to change, that's a pretty good indicator that someone's lying.
Here's your key piece of evidence, and it's in a picture on Facebook.
I was in shock. Like, where did this plot twist come from?
March 2015, Saskatoon, Canada. A picturesque town straddling the Saskatchewan River. 18-year-old Brittany Gargle is a senior in high school with a bright future.
I met Brittany in 8th grade. We were in gym class and we had to be partners, and we played dodgeball, and after that we found out that we lived 5 blocks away from each other and we would always hang out.
I just thought she was kind of bubbly and hyper and very friendly and outgoing person. And I like that about her.
Me and Brittany loved to do our hair, makeup. Every night she'd knock on my window and we would sit outside and talk, and she'd bring pizza and Slurpees. She treated me like a sister. If I didn't have money for anything, she would hand it to me. If she didn't have anything, I'd give it to her. She was just somebody to lean on.
Brittany also impresses her friends with an unusual level of responsibility for her age.
She was 17, she was working full-time, she was going to school full-time, and she had goals. She was definitely driven to get what she wanted. She wanted to build and own her own hotels. I knew right away that this girl was going to go places and do things.
Despite her sunny disposition, Brittany had a difficult childhood. Her mother struggles with addiction, and she grew up not knowing her father.
Brittany, growing up, she lived with her grandma. She was such a kind lady, made sure she always had what she needed. She definitely wanted a relationship with her mother, but she understood that there was circumstances that she couldn't change. Brittany, she was doing really good, had her job, and doing everything that she needed to do. She seemed really great, and that she was doing great in life.
On March 24th, 2015, just months before graduation, Brittany makes plans to go out with 18-year-old Cheyenne Antoine, a good friend she's known since 9th grade.
Cheyenne, she just seemed like a quiet, nice girl when I did meet her. They would go for walks and hang out outside.
Brittany and Cheyenne had developed a close bond because they both had difficult childhoods.
Cheyenne had this history where her folks had died. She was raised in the foster care system and then suffered sexual abuse.
Early in the evening, Brittany and Cheyenne stopped by Atasha's house.
And I just lent Brittany some gas money because she needed to get around. And then I told her to be careful, you know, if you need me, call me and I'll come pick you up or whatever. And she gave me a hug and that was it. That was my last interaction with her.
Just after midnight, Brittany posts a selfie on social media with Cheyenne.
They're at her grandma's house getting ready and dressed up for their evening out. Brittany was just, you know, I think she was just happy to get out and hang out with her friend. And Cheyenne looks like she's just ready to go party, and Brittany just looks so relaxed and just ready for whatever life is bringing her.
Six hours later, at 6:02 a.m. on March 25th, Saskatoon Police Radio Dispatch sends out an alert.
That particular morning, I was already out at the scene of a shooting, and the police scanner lit up. And when they switch to their emergency channel, and when they talk about a female injured and or in distress, you knew it was serious right away. At that point, I bailed out of the scene I was at and drove out to that area. I had to go see with my own eyes while it was still a fresh scene.
A motorist spotted a young woman lying on the side of the road in a remote area near the Saskatoon landfill.
Initially, on an outdoor crime scene like that, you need to protect the scene as best you can to preserve evidence as soon as you get there.
The victim appears to be in her late teens or early 20s, has no shoes on, and her body is cold to the touch.
By the time I'd gone out there, they weren't already. I could only get to within about 100 meters of where the body was.
Paramedics try to resuscitate the unidentified victim and rush her to the hospital. But she's pronounced dead on arrival. Police immediately suspect foul play.
The signs that she was a victim of a homicide were pretty obvious. The marks on the throat, the bruising, and all the injuries that were consistent with homicide.
At the crime scene, investigators find several potential pieces of evidence: a leather jacket, a belt, and a woman's watch.
The fact that her body was found on the outskirts of town raised a lot of red flags for investigators. My first instincts were that it was like a sexual predator type murder.
There was no immediate suspect. There was no motive. There was nothing there. Because I've covered crimes like this in the past, I thought this was a body dump. If I've hurt somebody and want to dispose of their body, this is the first natural point where you would throw a body out of a vehicle, because you've just cleared the last neighborhood. Nobody's going to see you there. It seemed pretty clear to me, based on my experience, that this is not where the person had had the bad things done to them. So right away, you had a scene that was not the crime scene.
I think there's always that kind of concern about, is this an isolated incident? Is this random? The killer is on the loose. That's often where my mind goes when I start to get into an investigation and start to cover crime cases.
Hoping to identify the victim or get leads to the killer, investigators release photos of the items found at the scene. They also release pictures of the victim's distinctive tattoos.
I think I turned the TV on around 7:30, and I turned on the news. They were talking about a girl who was found on Valley Road, and I was like, wow, that's just right down the street from where I live. And they said that they're still trying to identify her.
I started getting these texts, have you seen this? And then I looked and I'm like, there was the jacket, the tattoo, the line, the 2 stars. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Brittany. My heart sunk.
I literally dropped on my couch and started crying because I was like, this is no way. She was just here not even like 9 hours ago. And then I ended up calling the police station and I said, I know who it is. And they asked me to come down. I went down to the police station right away and did a statement, and I couldn't believe it still. Like, it was just unreal. Like, I almost couldn't fathom that it happened, but it happened and I couldn't stop crying. Those images, the jacket, and the broken watch, I couldn't get those images out of my head because she was wearing those things when she left my house.
So they had the identification fairly quickly, but that's all they had.
Like, why? That was the last night of her life. That photo is the last thing that anybody will see of her alive.
Investigators key in on an unusual murder weapon.
That belt may well have made the marks on her throat that caused her death.
And focus on an unlikely suspect.
I was shocked because of who it was.
Regardless of how improbable or salacious a story, they have to take it apart.
And that's why a lot of us started thinking, maybe, you know, this is going to be one of those unsolved mysteries.
Police in Saskatoon, Canada have learned that a murder victim found dumped on the side of the road is a local high school senior, Brittany Gargle.
This was a young woman who didn't fit the image of someone you would expect to find dead on the edge of town. She wasn't living on the street. She had stuff together. She had jobs. She had a family. She had all of those things.
When detectives learn from Brittany's family that she was active on social media, they delve into her accounts, looking for insights about her life and perhaps clues about what led to her death.
The police found the photo of Cheyenne and Brittany together, the selfie on the Facebook page. It was the last photo of Brittany Gargle.
They had a selfie posted of them on Facebook 6 hours before Brittany's death.
Detectives also discover a heartbreaking Facebook post by Cheyenne, made hours after Brittany's body was found.
She was posting on Brittany's Facebook wall, "Where are you? Haven't heard from you. Hope you made it home safe."
Police want to talk with Cheyenne to learn what she can tell them about Brittany's activities on the night before her body was discovered. They don't have to look far. Prompted by all the news stories about the murder, Cheyenne comes to them.
Cheyenne Antoine called police, and she told them what had happened the night before. And she basically said that she was with Brittany, it was a party night, they went to a few bars. So there's a timeline starting to be created leading up to when Brittany's body was found.
Cheyenne tells police that on March 24th, around midnight, she started partying at Manchester's pub. A couple hours later, Cheyenne says they went to a house party. And by 4 a.m., ended up at the Colonial Pub and Grill.
They apparently met a guy there. Brittany asked him for a lighter, invited him along.
Cheyenne describes him as a white male, about 30 years old, but she does.
After that, Cheyenne said that she got dropped off to visit her uncle and that she didn't ever see Brittany after that or had no idea where she went from there. And she actually gets her uncle on the phone to corroborate this story, and he, gives the same information.
As investigators begin trying to identify the mystery man Cheyenne says she last saw Brittany with, on March 26th, the day after Brittany was found by the side of the road, the results of her autopsy come in.
It was clear that Brittany had not been sexually assaulted. She died of suffocation by ligature, basically strangled to death. From the patterns on her neck, it wasn't a rope or a shoelace, but it was something else that left unusual marks.
One of the items of clothing that was found alongside Brittany's body was a belt. And the belt, a very interesting part of the case, because they believe that the belt was the murder weapon.
That belt may well have made the marks on her throat of the ligature that caused her death.
Brittany's family doesn't recognize the belt as belonging to her. Detectives send all of the items found near Brittany's body to the crime lab for DNA testing. When the results of the DNA tests come in, they show traces of Brittany's DNA on the belt, along with one other unidentified individual. One week after her, family and friends attend her funeral. Despite the injuries she suffered, her family wants an open casket.
Walking in there was hard. Seeing all her high school friends. And we got to go up and say goodbye. And it was really hard because she didn't even look like Brittany. Her face was, it was different. It was so swollen from the damage that you literally could not recognize her. And it was really hard to say goodbye.
As Brittany's friends mourn, detectives continue to follow up on the information provided by Brittany's friend Cheyenne. They visit the bars she says the pair went to, hoping surveillance video of the man Cheyenne says she saw with Brittany.
Everything you do is on camera now. And it's such a big part of homicide investigations now.
The bars do have security systems. And the footage confirms that the girls pulled into the parking lot at the first bar, Manchester's Pub, at midnight, just as Cheyenne reported. Then, investigators move on to the final bar Cheyenne says they visited that night.
Cheyenne told the police that Brittany left in the early morning hours with a male individual from the Colonial Pub and Grill. The story was that she left with a male acquaintance. The police, of course, checked the surveillance videos from those two pubs.
But when police scour the video from the Colonial, it tells a very different story from the one they heard from Cheyenne.
They don't see any sign of Cheyenne and Brittany.
When Cheyenne said they were at the Colonial Pub and Grill and that Brittany left with another male, police knew that wasn't true when they watched the surveillance videos, and that simply did not happen. They were not there.
Police hunting for the killer of 18-year-old Brittany Gargle are reviewing hours of surveillance video from the last bar she is thought to have visited on the night of her murder. But they can find no images of either Brittany, her friend Cheyenne, or the man with whom Cheyenne says she left the bar.
Well, geez, they don't turn up on any other surveillance video. That really threw people.
Police are now very suspicious of this narrative they've been given.
And what they did is start going through Cheyenne's story and looking for inconsistencies.
That includes taking another look at Cheyenne's claim that Brittany and the man she met at the Colonial Pub gave her a ride and dropped her off to visit her uncle around 4 a.m. on March 25th. A story her uncle corroborated. So detectives obtained the security footage from the assisted living facility where Cheyenne's uncle lives.
They examined those surveillance videos, and that was not true either. So her story was starting to fall apart.
So then they go talk to her uncle.
And he cracks. And he basically says, yeah, my niece made me make it up because the real story she gave me was a lot more intense. And he's going, I don't know if this happened. This is just what she told me. Cheyenne had told her uncle they were out at the bar that night and that they essentially went back to a motel room with what she described as two black men. And she told her uncle that they got into some kind of argument over cocaine. Cheyenne goes to the bathroom. When she comes back out, Brittany's on a bed. She has marks on her neck. And she's apparently dead. And one of these guys holds a gun to her head and basically tells her, you have to help me get rid of her.
And then she went to her uncle's house.
Detectives are immediately skeptical of the story Cheyenne's uncle claims she told him.
I think what's problematic for the police is, regardless of how improbable or salacious a story Cheyenne Antoine is offering, they have to take it apart and dismiss it to their satisfaction.
You have to investigate it. You have no choice.
That's the definition of what a police investigation is. You have to be able to say, you know, actually, we did check this out. We looked at the video, and there were no black drug dealers at the Colonial or wherever the hell you were saying you were that night. It just doesn't add up.
Cheyenne's second story, two black fellows killed Brittany, was thoroughly investigated, and that clearly did not happen either. That didn't make a lot of sense. Neither of those stories panned out. There was no evidence to support any of them.
Cheyenne's inconsistencies and outright lies earn her another interrogation. On May 5th, 5 weeks after Brittany's murder, detectives interview her again. But this time, they meet at the Saskatoon jail. Because Cheyenne has recently been arrested for shoplifting.
She was not willing to share anything with the police. She wouldn't talk about that evening at all. That made it difficult. But with her various stories, and her various stories not checking out, it became obvious that she was a suspect.
I remember them saying, so they are looking into Cheyenne, and then my heart just dropped. How is that possible?
I was in shock. And I just looked at my partner looked at me, and we both were like, she was in our home a couple times. Like, what happened? Where did this plot twist come from?
Despite her conflicting stories, investigators have no evidence connecting Cheyenne to Brittany's murder, and no obvious motive for her to have done it.
Even though you strongly suspect a person of the crime,
You have to keep a clear mind and not get so laser focused on the person telling the falsehoods that you get basically tunnel vision and you miss a possible suspect.
Without any witnesses and no apparent motive, it was pretty clear this was going to be a tough case to crack.
Two months after Brittany Gargle's murder, police have identified her friend Cheyenne Antoine as a suspect. Based on the misinformation Cheyenne has told them about the last night of Brittany's life. But they have no evidence yet to support those suspicions.
Police are very tight-lipped about investigations here. We do nothing other than what they want us to know in the investigation stage of something, and their reason is always because it's under investigation.
Everybody was getting very upset. They couldn't understand, why is this taking so long? And that's why a lot of us started thinking, like, maybe, you know, this is going to be one of those unsolved mysteries.
Why? What happened? Like, why does nobody know what happened? Like, this could happen to anybody else. It just drove me crazy.
Then, Brittany's family receives a phone call from out of the blue. From someone who says they want to get something off their chest.
A relative of Cheyenne's, her auntie, admitted that the night that Brittany died, Cheyenne had driven up and was in a panicky state.
It sounds like it was such a chaotic night. Cheyenne was drunk, and obviously good decisions weren't being made all around.
Cheyenne was drunk, crying, upset, saying she had strangled her friend Brittany.
Brittany's family immediately reports the call to the police. And investigators quickly track down Cheyenne's aunt. She confirms the story and breaks open the case.
And that was one of the big leads that police had been missing.
The aunt's damning story convinces investigators that they finally found Brittany's killer. But there still isn't solid enough evidence for an arrest.
Anything the aunt said would have to be solidified by evidence.
With no physical proof that Cheyenne killed her friend, police are now hoping for a direct confession. But even when confronted with her aunt's story, Cheyenne continues to deny that she had anything to do with Brittany's death.
It was really frustrating. Without a confession from the suspect, the investigation could go on for months, even years.
The fact that Cheyenne wouldn't give a statement to the police made it difficult. She wouldn't talk about that evening at all, other than the lies that we know that she told the police.
Under Canadian law, detectives need stronger evidence than the aunt's story to obtain a warrant for Cheyenne's arrest, or even a DNA test.
On how long it took, it felt ridiculous. But I understand at the same time, these are not things you find out overnight, and it takes quite a long time.
On September 10th, 2015, 6 months after the murder, Cheyenne posts on social media about how much she loves and misses her friend.
It presents like somebody who's really genuine and worried about their friend.
She posted that long paragraph about, I hope whoever he is, he's found. I knew there was something more to it, just didn't seem right.
Cheyenne's Facebook comment pours salt in the wounds of Brittany's loved ones, and it also adds to law enforcement's suspicions of her.
It just must have been maddening for them, because they would know. We've got so much, but we don't have it all.
The case drops out of the headlines, and to those outside of the investigation, it appears to go cold.
I mean, nobody was talking. Everyone was kind of wondering what had happened with Brittany Gargo's death.
The Saskatoon police kept a pretty close eye on Cheyenne. They knew where she was, they knew what she was doing. The police are very diligent investigating serious crime like this. They just don't stop.
As part of that effort, detectives decide to take a fresh look at all of the evidence they've collected. and they discover detail in their files that they now realize was previously overlooked.
And that's where the selfie picture comes into play. A very, very important picture.
When investigators re-examined their case file in the murder of Brittany Gargle, they realize a key piece of evidence may have been hiding in plain sight. The selfie that Brittany posted just hours before her death.
We had the photo of Cheyenne and Brittany together 6 hours before she died. And if you look closely, tucked in the bottom corner of that photo, Cheyenne's wearing the belt they found at the scene.
It's this thick black braided belt. It's quite distinct. I mean, you wouldn't have thought anything about it if you had just regularly looked at that photo. It's not sinister, just presents like two smiling friends.
I think that was like an aha moment.
When the case broke, it broke big and fast.
Here's your key piece of evidence, and it's in a picture on Facebook. Doesn't get much better than that when you're trying to prosecute somebody for murder.
It's like playing poker where you turn the cards and the whole deck flips. They went from having nothing to having everything.
The discovery gives the detectives the evidence they need to order new DNA tests on the belt.
It has both the girls' DNA on it. It substantiates the theory that the belt was the murder weapon, that essentially Cheyenne used that belt to strangle Brittany.
Now that they have the evidence they've been looking for, tying Cheyenne to Brittany's murder, detectives bring her in for one more interview.
You should always attempt to get a confession. It lets them tell what happened in their own words, even though you investigated and you have a clear picture of what happened.
But Cheyenne still will not confess. In fact, she still refuses to talk at all.
Cheyenne was just shutting down at that point. Maybe it was weighing on her.
Despite her continued silence, police finally have enough to arrest Cheyenne for second-degree murder.
It was shock and happiness because we finally had some answers. So I was happy about the answers, but I was shocked because of who it was. We honestly thought it was just she lost her friend, and we all felt bad for her. Now it makes me angry. Don't know how she slipped through the cracks for so long. It was just shocking.
After her arrest, Cheyenne tells detectives she is finally ready to talk.
She basically said it was a party night. They had gone at least to a house party that had been corroborated, and lots of drugs and alcohol were being used that night. By all accounts, both women were intoxicated. They went to a few bars. She says that her last memory is at 4:30 in the morning of being in a McDonald's, and that she remembers, she didn't really use the term getting into a fight with, but Brittany getting frustrated over something. She doesn't remember what happened after that, but she couldn't deny that she was the person that killed her friend. She said she woke up and knew that something bad had happened between her and Brittany. But she was just so unable to accept it. And so instead she chose to try to deny and mislead. And I guess maybe that's easier when you really don't remember what happened.
It really, really makes you second guess every person in your life. So now it's like I go and look at my friends and I'm kind of scared. So I can't hang out with people alone due to the fact of what happened to her.
As Cheyenne's trial approaches, Canadian Crown prosecutors face a unique challenge.
One of the frustrating things about her not really admitting what she did, there was no motive. She didn't offer a reason as to why she killed her friend.
It's one of those cases where we really didn't get an answer as to why this happened. And that has a lot to do with drugs. The fact that Cheyenne was so intoxicated that night that she can't remember killing someone, like, I think speaks volumes to the unanswered questions of this case. What could have made Cheyenne so angry in that moment that that's where her anger went?
So all of a sudden, this notion of culpability is a little more unclear. There's no clear motive. And the Crown, by law, is obligated to go through a checklist of factors to take into account. Her family circumstances, education, addictions, poverty, all of that.
Sometimes you just don't know what the motive is, and no one will ever tell you. It doesn't make sense why a person kills another person or commits a horrible crime against another person. And sometimes there is no motive. You're just evil.
Two years after the murder of Brittany Gargle, her friend Cheyenne Antoine is charged with second-degree murder. Cheyenne claims that due to the drugs and alcohol she consumed, she has no memory of the night that Brittany died. As her trial approaches, prosecutors believe they can prove Cheyenne killed Brittany. But to maximize her sentence, they'll also have to prove she intended to murder her.
The fact that Cheyenne wouldn't admit what she did to the police made it difficult to prove criminal intent. Second-degree murder is a murder with full intent to kill. Manslaughter can have the reduced intent to kill. We accepted the plea of guilty to manslaughter on the basis that she was drunk at the time.
Cheyenne Antoine is sentenced to 7 years in prison. She is eligible for release in 2024.
Seven years actually is the ballpark for manslaughter in the sentencing in Saskatchewan. And I've seen it as low as 2 years.
Still, Brittany's loved ones are devastated.
She was a wonderful person whose life was cut short, and it's not fair. It's just not fair.
We thought it was bullshit. She was given so many chances. What more do you need to see that this person is not going to learn?
People have gone to jail a lot longer for killing their dog or cat. It does not make sense. Why is she getting a slap on the wrist? She's still young enough to go out there and live a full life, still have a family, build everything and anything that Brittany will never have.
Brittany's friends are in disbelief that Cheyenne could forget strangling her.
I think she knows and remembers, but is playing it off as I was inebriated and I'm going to use that card. And I don't think that's fair either.
They also struggle with how long it took for police to connect the dots and make an arrest.
It felt ridiculous. We're not going to look at a picture and be like, oh, look, there's the murder weapon. But it was a little frustrating that the answer was right there.
The existence of the photo and why it took so long to really definitively connect that to Cheyenne, I still don't really quite know. But I think the numerous attempts to mislead police certainly did not make the investigation straightforward. They would have had to follow a lot of false leads, and that takes time and resources. And I mean, we don't have a huge police service here, so it's one of those things where I think they just had to eventually get the right things to crack, and that eventually happened.
The fact that it was a friend who took Brittany's life is especially difficult for her loved ones. But they are determined that her memory will live on.
I miss her bubbly, happy, positive personality. I miss her quite often because I see her every day. I don't tear up every day, but I still, once in a while, I do get a little bit emotional thinking about back in the day with her, what she could have been now. I just feel saddened that she's missed out on her life.
I got to hang out with Brittany 2 weeks prior to everything that happened to her. We got to sit in her car and catch up for a bit, talking about our lives and where we are and how we're so surprised how much we're growing up and about being the people that we are. When I'm walking by the river and going for walks, every day it reminds me of her. Brittany was a very loving person, and she did everything she could to make another person happy. I'm glad that my last memory of her was her smiling and hanging out and laughing.
They were very loving people. They wanted to share all their love with as many children as they could.
You got these two individuals killed execution style.
It's shocking that someone would be shot right in front of their own kids in their own home.
What'd you think when you heard that pow, 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 pow? I thought, oh dear God, no.
They had 16 cameras, and they were all working.
You see them kick in the front door, back door at the same time.
Just doesn't make sense because they got what they wanted, so why kill them?
The camera really tells the tale.
It was almost silence when we're watching it and seeing it. We couldn't believe what we were watching.
Summer 2009, Pensacola, Florida. Bud and Melanie Billings are enjoying life with the big, loving family they've made for themselves.
They had a couple of their own children, and they adopted many children. They just wanted to have a large family, whatever way they could swing it.
I believe they are the modern life Brady Bunch, honestly. They adopted a lot of special needs kids, and they loved them a lot. If they could, they would adopt every child in the world.
Before the Billings became Pensacola's modern-day Brady Bunch, they were just Bud and Melanie.
Bud was a fixture in the used car business.
So Bud is this hard-charging businessman. He was an entrepreneur. He had many businesses. He had a lot of money, And he wanted a large family, the bigger the better. Then he meets Melanie, who is the softer side of him.
Bud used to own a club in town. Melanie was a waitress there, and they madly fell in love. He eventually sold the club and got heavier in the used car business, which is where Bud really was making his money.
With Bud's career on the rise, the couple decide to marry in 1993.
Melanie was great. She kind of smoothed off the edges of Bud. He deeply loved her.
Bud and Melanie have two children from previous marriages. But they're not done yet.
He wanted to take care of children, and it was like in his soul. So adoptions ensued. And Bud and Melanie actually ended up with 13 children.
Melanie developed a passion for helping these kids. And these kids were very much a part of their lives.
They just were very loving people, honestly. They just wanted to share all their love with as many children as they could.
You have money and you are adopting these special needs children, and that gains a lot of attention because of, you know, it's a good deed, obviously, but also it's kind of unusual.
By 2009, the Billings have 9 children in their home, ranging in age from 4 to 11. Their 2 oldest children from previous marriages, Melanie's daughter Ashley and Bud's son Justin, are grown but live in the area. They decide to share the story of their big, loving family with their community.
Our daily newspaper did a big profile on the Billings family. There were some wonderful pictures of Bud and Melanie and all this litter of kids, some laying and some in their laps, and all ages and sizes. And the whole story was just about how big their hearts were. This photo is the last photo of the family. And just, you can't look at that picture and not feel something for this family.
At 7 p.m. on July 9th, 2009, the Billings are home. Most of their children are in bed.
Bud is with one of their kids watching television. His wife is in a kitchen. It was one of those kitchens that had sort of a counter that she could look into the living room area. So she's cleaning dishes, they're watching TV.
Bud and Melanie Billings have no idea that these seemingly mundane chores will be their final moments together.
Their eldest daughter, Ashley, calls the house to see how the family's doing. It's like 7:30 at night. One of the children answers the phone, and the child is crying.
The Billings had a nurse that helped part-time at the home. Her name was April Spencer.
Worried that she can't get her parents to come to the phone, Ashley calls April and asks her to go to the Billings house and check on Bud and Melanie and their children.
Sheriff's Department, Debbie.
I live next door. The mother and father have been shot.
They've been shot?
Yes. Please come.
Kim, I'm trying to get somebody this. You said the mother and father both have been shot?
Yes. I gotta go over here with the children, but I don't know.
I don't want you to be in any danger, okay? I've got several officers on the way to you.
Sorry. I gotta go get the kids. There's kids in the house.
Home security video reveals a key clue to the Billings killers.
The first thing that comes to mind when you see that red van is we're going to be able to find that.
And find a tangled web of conspirators.
They're all in complete black. They look like ninjas.
She's very successful, and somehow she's involved with these ninja characters.
So now we're stuck with trying to figure out all these players and how to prove it.
And it doesn't make any sense. Why would you get yourself involved in this?
So you said the mother and father both have been shot?
July 9th, 2009. A frantic 911 sends police rushing to the home of Bud and Melanie Billings in Pensacola, Florida.
We got dispatch telling us that we needed to respond to a double murder. At that time, we didn't know much about it. We didn't know if maybe suicide or what we had. I pull up and I see probably half of our patrol deputies on scene, lights everywhere.
It was sort of surreal because they're carrying babies and toddlers and all different type of ages outside. Just that eeriness of how many kids were in that house and trying to get them out.
There's 8 to 13 kids that we're dealing with. We learned right away, the majority of them were nonverbal. It was difficult getting anything out of them. So after the kids were safe with a nanny, we started to walk through the crime scene. Right away, you notice the door been kicked in, that it was forced open. You see some blood right there in the living room. And then to the far right is the bedroom. And you see Mr. and Miss Billings on the floor inside the bedroom.
Based on the initial forensics noted at the scene, it quickly becomes clear to detectives that this is not a murder-suicide.
You know, you got these 2 individuals killed almost execution style. When you see that, that's when we knew it's going to be different. I mean, you know right away that you're dealing with either robbery or home invasion, something in that nature.
When the Billings' daughter, Ashley, arrives at the scene, she points officers to something inside the house that could help them get some answers.
There were cameras all over the place. They had 16 cameras, and they were all working.
The reason they had the video system there was to keep an eye on all these special needs kids if they didn't hurt themselves.
Detectives rush the video equipment back to their tech team at headquarters, hopeful it will hold the answers to what happened in Bud and Melanie's final moments.
We had to actually pull the hard drive. It had to be pulled and brought back to the sheriff's office to be viewed.
Meanwhile, forensics teams continue through the night processing the bloody scene for physical evidence.
There wasn't a lot of evidence left by these killers because they really covered their tracks except for the shell casings. But then also, there were some shoe prints because one of the doors had been kicked in and they found some boot prints outside the house.
Investigators send the physical evidence for processing and return to the sheriff's office, where they are at last able to access the video from the Billings home security system.
When we finally start viewing the video, it's clear as day. You see this red van pull up. You see these people jump out.
You had 5 individuals moving across the yard. They're all in complete black shoes, shirts, and masks. So they look like ninjas.
It was almost, when we're watching it, we couldn't believe what we were watching. Then you see them kick in the front door, back door at the same time. It's not something that we had ever seen.
The surveillance footage tells a stunning story about what happened inside the house.
You could tell it's obviously planned, military style, long guns, handguns.
You see Bud immediately puts his hands up.
And he's trying to talk to these killers that have come into his home with his kids and his wife.
Then you have two other masked men come in from down the hallway.
So the men that finally rush into the room, they get Bud and they zip tie him and they push him to the floor.
Within minutes of getting Bud on the floor, one of the guys shoots him twice, one in each leg, in the meaty part of the calf. Drag him, you know, into the master bedroom, drag Melanie into the master bedroom.
Mr. Billings didn't have video in his bedroom, so we didn't see them being killed.
Investigators rewind the video again and again, scouring it for clues. And they spot something they didn't notice earlier.
We see there's a little boy in the living room. This little 6, 7, 8-year-old kid watching and seeing his family get killed. It was horrible.
The child, he was with his dad when the men broke into the house. He wasn't in the bedroom, but he actually saw his dad being shot. He saw his mom being dragged. The gang pretty much just ignored him, you know, while this was all going on, and immediately doing what they were doing.
I've covered a lot of murders, and this one is the most shocking because it's basically caught on camera, memorializing the final moments of the Billings lives. And all the children are there. It's so unnerving, and it's just sad, but also it's something you can't unsee. And then after that, you can see the ninja invaders quickly leaving the house.
You see them getting into the van with an object. But it was hard to tell from the video what they were carrying out of the house.
This whole thing happened in less than 10 minutes.
So police are trying to figure out, is this just simply a home invasion and people that want money? Or why did this go down?
Home security video has captured chilling details of the murders of Bud and Melanie Billings in front of their children. Investigators believe the key to understanding may lie in the unidentified object the killers are seen fleeing with on the blurry video.
In the early moments of the investigation, we were thinking that it was a robbery.
The video answers a lot of questions, but not the most important ones.
So you have this great video of showing exactly what happened, but you couldn't distinguish any type of facial features or anything like that. And we didn't know what they took.
Investigators continue trying to decipher the clues contained in the home security video. They need to know exactly what was taken from the Billings home, why, and most importantly, by whom. So they speak to those closest to Bud and Melanie, their oldest children, Justin and Ashley.
Typically in a homicide, they're going to go first to the people that are closest. So they're going to go find out where all the family members were, get their interviews done quickly.
We found out through Ashley, there was 2 different safes in the house. The small safe was in his bedroom in a bedroom closet. And there's another safe upstairs.
And one of those safes is now missing.
So when we put the whole thing together, you see them carrying what we know now is the small safe put into the red van, and you see everybody leaving. In that safe, Ashley had told us there's like birth certificates, adoption paperwork, stuff of that nature for all these kids. Some minor jewelry of her mom's, but not a lot.
So Ashley tells police, look, they got away with a safe, but the other safe that's in the house is the one with the cash.
There was a lot of money being made with the used car business.
So in the safe upstairs, there was like 100 to 200,000, something like that, worth of cash inside.
They took the wrong one.
They had no clue about the second safe, and I just think it was a little bit of ignorance.
Investigators still have no leads to the identities of the home invaders. They hope one comes from their most promising clue, the red van seen on the security video.
The first thing that comes to mind when you see that red van is, we're going to be able to find that.
We got that video of the red van put out on media. I mean, right away.
As police work on finding the killers, the Billings family is faced with another urgent task, taking care of the children who are now left orphaned. Ashley, Melanie's oldest daughter from her previous marriage, rises to the challenge.
She's taking care of all the kids.
That's a big responsibility, but those kids need someone that's close to them and that knows what they need.
Days with no new leads on the red van or the identity of its occupants. The evidence points to a robbery gone bad. But with a safe full of cash left behind and the two brazen murders, detectives begin to wonder if something bigger is at play.
In the South, you don't speak ill of the dead until they're buried. So my thought was, okay, once we get the funerals over with, somebody's going to come forward. And sure enough, my theory turned out to be right. We started hearing that Bud was a great friend, but he never got the wrong side of a business deal. The stories that we were getting were the people that had used car lots with them. He would find a successful salesperson. He would help them finance the cars. But then when the sales start to fall off, he didn't hesitate to take the whole lot from them. And there were stories of him coming in the middle of the night, taking all the keys, moving all the cars in the lot, and the guy going back to work to a lot he thought he had with no cars.
Might Bud Billings have crossed the wrong man?
So there was a question whether this was just purely to burglarize the Billings, or was there some other motive behind this? Was it hit? Was there a revenge motive to this?
We appreciate you coming in. Well, anything to help.
Bud's adult son, Justin, sometimes worked with his dad on his auto lots. As police interview him about the murders, he provides some intriguing details about his father's business dealings.
And when the police spoke to Justin, he gave a name, a key to why this might have all gone down.
During the interview with Justin, he brings up Cab Tice. He said, hey, this is a guy you might want to look at. Him and my dad have had issues in the past, and you might want to check him out.
Cab Tice ran several car dealerships. He had a flair for liking Hawaiian shirts. He tanned.
Justin tells investigators that his father had a business dispute with Cab Tice, and Bud had accused Cab of stealing from him.
My dad was disappointed in him for stealing from him. I mean, he said if you needed money, you could have just asked. You didn't have to steal it from me. And Cab just stormed out.
So we start looking into Cab Tice. We wind up going out there and making contact with Cab, and he made it clear that he had no use for Mr. Billings. It kept just getting more interesting at every turn.
Two days after the murders of Bud and Melanie Billings, Bud's son Justin has given police the name of a potential suspect, Cab Tice.
The story was he and Bud had a falling out. Bud would finance his lot, and Cab would sell cars and not give Bud his share of the money. If anybody had something against Bud Billings, it was Cab Tice.
Mr. Billings felt like Cab owed him money. They were not friendly at all. It was clear. So when we started to talk to Mr. Tice, he was very frank.
In business, Bud Billings wouldn't give you a dime unless you got 29 cents back.
Said, hey, I don't like the guy. I have no use for him. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sad that he's gone.
Bud Billings' favorite statement was this, and as you interview people, he'll say, you know what, over these years, I had so much cash that I could not spend it before I died. And when this whole thing happened, those words rang in my ear, I have more cash, and I think it was right.
Detectives think Cab Tice could have a motive to go after Bud. They press him to provide an alibi for the night of the murders, and he tells them he was working at a dealership an hour and a half outside of Pensacola that evening.
And we showed you a picture of this van right here, right?
Yes, sir. I've never seen that van.
You've never seen that van?
No, sir.
With no evidence that he committed any crime, police have no cause to hold Cab.
We let him go, letting him know that we had to follow up, checking his alibi and verify everything that he said.
Despite their initial suspicions, detectives are able to corroborate Cab's alibi. The case seems to be losing momentum. But then, investigators' strategy of asking for the public's help finding the red van seen at the Billings home finally pays off.
Somebody calls up and says, hey, I know this van. I once owned it and I sold it.
And I sold it to Patrick Gonzalez. Investigators go to the ad Mr. Gonzalez they had found in our computer database.
They drive by the house. Lo and behold, there's this van peeking out behind the trailer. They go, and it looks like the one that is in the video.
And it's just sitting there.
So police bring Patrick Gonzalez to the police station for questioning.
So he tells the investigator that the van doesn't run, hasn't moved in a while, and that it's his son's, Gonzalez Jr.'s.
So police have two suspects, and they both have the same name. One is Junior, Leonard Patrick Gonzalez Sr., and then Leonard Patrick Gonzalez Jr.
Detectives continue to press Patrick Gonzalez Sr. about the red van, when suddenly, he crumbles.
Patrick Gonzalez Sr. tells the police that, hey, I was just a driver. He spilled the beans on everything.
Okay. You pull in the driveway, what happens? Everybody jumps in, doors kicking open. Right on the ground. Okay. All right. And that's all I thought it would be.
He just basically spills his guts that it's his son, Patrick Jr., who masterminded the whole thing, and it's all his fault. I was just the getaway driver.
He said his son kind of brought him into this, a father and son kind of escapade. You know, instead of going fishing, we're going to go commit a robbery.
He talks about, you know, being told about this being a drug dealer, that nobody was going to care if they robbed this guy. And he was shocked when he heard the gunshots go off in the house, and pretty much lays out the whole crime.
You said you were still in the van. What did you do next? Got in the driver's seat. Uh-huh. And then what happens after that? We get down in the yard, everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden, okay.
What'd you think when you heard that pow, 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 pow?
I liked it on myself. I thought, oh dear God, no.
Based on his confession, Patrick Gonzalez Sr. is charged with being an accomplice.
Senior tells us everything that happened, but he doesn't know all the names of the other guys. So now we're stuck with trying to figure out all these players and how to prove it.
Police have traced the red van used in the murders of Bud and Melanie Billings to Patrick Gonzalez Sr. He admits to being at the scene, but insists his son is the mastermind behind the deadly robbery.
So as we started investigating Gonzalez Jr., we learned that him and Bud Billings were friends and knew each other.
They knew each other in the car business. Patrick Jr. would work at different car lots. They would do these big tent sales, and he'd be one of the army of salespeople that would do that.
Because of what they have on Patrick Jr. from his father, they bring him in for an interrogation.
Investigators do not immediately reveal what Patrick Gonzalez's father has told them.
We appreciate you coming here today.
Believe me, when I saw the pictures on TV, I was like, damn, you know, and I know the guy, you know, so I'm thinking.
You know what guy?
The guy that this is about. So I was like,
You saw the picture of the van on TV?
Yeah.
Man, that's your van.
Excuse me?
That picture is the same van that's in your yard, right?
It's similar. Similar. Very similar to that van, but no, it's not. It can't be the same van. It's not the same van.
He denies everything, and he tells us his dad's mentally crazy. Don't listen to nothing he says.
Detectives believe Patrick Sr.'s story. Patrick Gonzalez Jr. is their prime suspect, but they have to find proof that he was involved.
We had enough probable cause to keep Senior. We didn't have enough probable cause to keep Junior, so then we got to keep following up. We got to get enough evidence to prove his dad's story.
That includes doing a deep dive into Patrick Jr.'s background.
Patrick Jr., he had spent some time in prison with a battery charge, an assault charge, and he had come out. He was very proficient in martial arts, had done some MMA fighting. Patrick had gone to Bud to get money to help with the studio that he had, the martial arts studio that he started, and Bud was not interested in investing in his business.
Investigators believe they have discovered a possible explanation for why the robbery turned so inexplicably deadly. Could Patrick Jr. have been so angry at Bud for not investing in his studio that he wanted him dead? Police execute a search warrant at Patrick Gonzalez Sr.'s property, where the red van was located.
The search warrant at Senior's house was incredibly huge. It helps tie things together. We wind up getting paint cans where they were trying to paint the vehicle, some burned stuff like that. We wind up getting a shoebox from Walmart.
So the shoebox is significant because the bottom of those boots match the pattern of the shoe prints found at the Billings house. after the double murder.
Detectives head to Walmart and find surveillance footage matching the date and time on a receipt found with the shoeboxes. And on it, they see Patrick Jr. with a group of men police believe is the robbery crew.
Well, all of them are on the video at Walmart, where we see him buying clothing and shoes for the group that he had recruited.
Prosecutors feel they now have enough to arrest Patrick Gonzalez Jr. When they release the Walmart video to the public, tips help them identify and arrest the other 5 men.
They Gonzalez Jr. through a mechanic shop. So he winds up talking them into going into this house and robbing it because this guy's got tons and tons of money in his safe.
Police arrest Wayne Coldiron, Donnie Stallworth, Gary Sumner, Rakeem Florence, and Frederick Thornton. But pieces of the puzzle are still missing.
They had arrested a lot of people, but they didn't have the guns, they didn't have the safe.
Detectives continue interrogating their suspects, probing for leads to the guns and safe. And as they do, they hear about a mysterious woman who may be the key to that information.
Pamela Long-Wiggins, she's blonde, she's a real estate agent, very successful, has a lot of money, and somehow she's involved with these ninja characters.
We wind up finding out that she's rents to Gonzalez Jr., a home in Gulf Breeze, Florida. He would collect money for her if people were giving her a hard time, not paying up, kick them out of homes, stuff of that nature. So that was their connection.
Police learn from their suspects that after the murders, Patrick Gonzalez Jr. met with Pamela, but then she disappeared. Detectives managed to track Pamela down just in time.
She was trying to leave and wound up locating her in a big yacht or boat that they had in Orange Beach, Alabama. When we get Pamela Long-Wiggins back to the sheriff's office, she doesn't want to speak with us without an attorney.
But then they get an unexpected visit from Pamela's husband, Hugh, looking to cut a deal for himself.
Hugh Wiggins was not on our radar at all. So we're like, this case just gets crazier and crazier. And he actually spills all the beans. He sells his wife under the bus.
The first question we have is, where is the safe?
Do you want me to tell you, or do you want me to take you to it?
I want you to tell me at this point.
Well, first of all, I don't know for a fact that it's there. I was just told that it was there.
Who told you?
Pam told me.
Hugh had cut an immunity deal with the state attorney's office. And he told them where the guns could be found, where the safe was. That was sort of a turning point in this investigation.
Faced with her husband's betrayal, Pamela admits to taking the guns and safe. She tells detectives she got her marching orders from Patrick Gonzalez Jr.
Okay. He said, if we do the job, won't be in trouble. And I let him talk me into it.
I didn't hear you.
And I let him talk me into doing this.
Pamela Wiggins is charged with accessory after the fact. The rest of the crew are charged with murder and armed home invasion. As investigators continue to interrogate them, they all point the finger at Patrick Gonzalez Jr. as the man who turned that night deadly.
Because he's the one who pulls the trigger.
They explained that when they come in the front door that it's Gonzalez Jr. right away. When the first shot goes out, they're shocked And they tell us that Gonzalez Jr. shot them both while they were in the bedroom.
Gonzalez Jr. told this tale of how we're going to rob these drug dealers and this bad guy, and there's millions and millions of dollars.
It was only supposed to be a robbery, and they were pissed because that is not what was supposed to happen.
Prosecutors in Patrick Gonzalez Jr.'s murder case are preparing for what they know will be a closely watched trial. It's one of the most high-profile cases in Pensacola's history.
I think that what was a challenge in this case was that you want to make sure that no stone goes unturned to make sure we obtain justice. It's a death penalty case.
Leonard Patrick Gonzalez Jr.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gonzalez, you've been arrested on charges of homicide and home invasion and robbery with a firearm.
In October 2010, the trial of Patrick Gonzalez Jr. for the murders of Bud and Melanie Billings begins. Prosecutors have plenty of evidence that he wanted the Billings money.
I think that Gonzalez Jr. believed that there was a treasure trove at that house.
But they can't explain why he wanted them dead.
So the big question that still hangs in the balance is, why were the Billings killed? It just doesn't make sense because they got what they wanted. They got a safe. So why kill the parents?
It was supposed to be just a simple robbery, people needing money. I really am not sure what was in Gonzalez's mind, but I think if you watch the video and surveillance video and you see it, as quickly as he shot him when he come in that door, I think, in my opinion, he had full intentions of killing him as soon as he come in that door. He comes in the door and shoots him right away.
Patrick Gonzalez won't provide any answers about his motive. He maintains his innocence and declines to testify. But the state has another powerful weapon. As part of a plea deal, 2 of the crew members, Rakeem Florence and Frederick Thornton, have agreed to testify to their involvement in the murders.
We walked Florence and Thornton through the video, and they would say, "That's me, that's this is this person." It became alive through them. So you brought almost a color commentary right there from the guys who were inside the house.
I think it worked effectively.
The video was the overwhelming piece of evidence that sealed the fate of all these folks. The video cannot be cross-examined. It puts the people where they're at. It is the crime.
On October 28, 2010, the jury finds Patrick Gonzalez Jr. guilty of murder and armed home invasion robbery.
A judge ultimately, after sentencing hearings, sentenced him to death.
The other members of the deadly crew all receive heavy prison sentences, ranging from 20 years to life. Both Patrick Gonzalez Sr. and Pamela Wiggins die behind bars.
As a human being, you just have to look at the senseless nature of it. Just absolutely senseless violence that has inexorably changed people's lives by virtue of just mere greed. Senseless greed. And that's the thing that really saddens you, because, you know, in many ways, all these people were drawn in for greed, and then a senseless double murder takes place. Families are torn apart. Both sides of the equation are forever changed by this.
was a
दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुल्तान भी आए बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे हाय कुछ नहीं खड़दे नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कुछ नहीं खड़दे नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े आए मावा तू बिछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए मावा तू बिछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी वो दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी हाय कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हंसना रोना गम लाचारी हंसना रोना गम लाचारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी हाय कंजरी दी मिसाल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा बंदावे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी भूत वे तुड़ानी मिट्टी दा वीरा भूत तुड़ानी मिट्टी दा वीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुल्तान भी आए बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए हरे हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हरे हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन